Fully clothed bathing burglar found in Seattle home's bathing burglar found in Seattle home's bathroom. This almost sounds like the Hamburglar, doesn't it? The bathroom burglar. Hamburglar. We got to check this out. But before we check this out, what I want you to do, do a quick Google search of this story. Just Google fully clothed bathing burglar. There are so many news networks that pick this up. I mean, it's like this story just makes Seattle look ridiculous. Ridiculous. Because who takes a shot? Who number one, breaks into a home, fills up the bathtub, and then gets into it fully clothed? This makes no sense, does it? That's why we're covering this story, because it's ridiculous. This is wildly ridiculous. This is what a city like Seattle has come to, because you've got people out of their minds on drugs doing this kind of stuff. You don't break into somebody's house to take a bath, although maybe you do. I mean, maybe that's what we're doing here. Maybe that's the route we're going. Let's check this story out. Let's see what the deal is. Before I get too much further, love to have you subscribe if you haven't already. Best thing you can do to support this channel is to share the content. Share a video. Take that share little symbol, share it out to somebody that you know that might appreciate it. That's the best way you can support me. Also, check out our reasonabletv.com. That's our subscription service. We're loading about 2 different pieces of content per week on there. So you got another 8 podcasts to watch per month that you're not going to find anywhere else, because that content, other platforms, they do not approve. So you want to check that out. Back to your regular scheduled program. Here's the official statement from the Seattle Police Department. The man was clothed, but very wet, and the bathtub was full of water. Okay. All right. That's really about all you need to know here. But this guy broke into a house. How high was this dude to break into a house, run the water? I mean, he broke into the house. Oh, he was gonna rob the house. He was gonna rob the house, but then he got high. Yeah. Is that what happened? No, he was high. He was high. This guy's been on a bender for a while, right? He's been on something that's just, maybe he's been up for 3-4 days, and he's not at the right point of thinking. He's not making rational decisions. Or else, he's 27 years old. I'm going to give the kid a break. I'm going to blame this on drugs. This person was older. I'd say, well, maybe they're just mental. He could have mental issues where he's just, mental folks, they would typically try the door, and like Our Lady down in Portland. Remember Our Lady down in Portland? It's just her family can't get her into psychiatric care, even though she, drastically needs it. Well, I'm going to blame this one on drugs, because this one just is so random that you're like, okay, he broke in. He was going to rob the home. No, was he? We don't really know, right? We have no idea. And that's why so many of these networks are picking it up, because it's so bizarre. Guy breaks in. What did he do? He was going to take a bath. Do you remember the podcast I did? It wasn't too long ago, and the guy broke into the home and he literally took a shower. Did he take a shower? Yeah, he took a shower. Homeowner found him taking a shower, and he left, and the SWAT team came in, and he left in a towel. He's like, all this attention here for me. I guess I'll put a towel on. The SWAT standoff was happening, and the dude's taking a shower. These are people that aren't dealing with the full deck, whether it's from drugs or for some kind of mental illness. I don't know, but this is the type of activity that we are seeing happen on a regular basis. I was texting with my mom yesterday. My mom said, hey, I was just reading my parents lived here in Seattle for many, many, many years. And then they've been in either Dallas or Oklahoma for a long time now. I don't know how many years, 30. I'm throwing that out there. But prior to that, they were here my entire life growing up. I was born and raised here. So they were here for that time period. So they're down in Oklahoma City now, my parents, and they are reading the news about Seattle going, what is happening to Seattle? So my mom was texting me this weekend that she had just read in an article about some of the stuff going on in Seattle from the Seattle Times. And I'm like, yep, that's all true. I pretty much covered all of those incidents that you're talking about in a podcast last week, multiple podcasts. This is just kind of the ongoing stuff. And I kind of cover the micro, which is, all right, so you got all these policies in place. What's the end result? Well, the end result is some dude whacked out of his mind on drugs or crazy because we've dumped out all the mental institutions, and you got all these random people running around on the streets, living in homeless encampments, doing crazy stuff. This is the end result. And so one of the stories I was telling my mom about was that it happened, I think it was just yesterday or the day before. Jonathan Cho is running around doing his video, stuff on his phone. And a dude with a hatchet starts chasing him. And he's just getting footage on a public street in downtown Seattle. I think it was in downtown Seattle. And a dude with a hatchet starts chasing him. I mean, really? And you know what? You know what the answer is? Oh, yeah, that's pretty normal. Hatchets, axes, swords. How many times have I mentioned people with swords? Yeah, swords. Throw in the occasional bayonet, I'm sure. But I mean, you've just got people doing a wide variety of just wacky stuff, whether it's drugs or mental illness. Who knows? Who knows? According to the Seattle Police Department, a woman returned to her home Friday just after 7 p.m. to find a window smashed and an unknown man inside the house. I don't know who this individual is. What did he take? Well, he took a bath. Cop's going to be like, oh, okay. All right. Well, sorry I had to see that. Yeah. And the dude got water everywhere because he was in his clothes. It's like, didn't somebody tell you, clothing optional in a tub by yourself is okay. That's all right. There's nothing wrong with that. You want to do that elsewhere in public, whatever? Well, you might run into some nudity laws. There might be some issues there. So she remained outside the home and called police. Upon their arrival, officers instructed anyone inside to come out. When they got no reply, they went on to search the home and found a suspect in the bathroom. Well, he's got the water running. You know how you can't hear a damn thing with the water running? You're in the shower, you can't hear anything, and it's like, what's that sound out there? What? Is somebody trying to get a hold? Is that the phone ringing? Back in the day, that used to be it because the landline was real loud. Is that the phone? Somebody turn the TV up. Oh, that's the police. Huh. Interesting. The man was clothed but very wet, and the bathtub was full of water. That's just such a great statement by the police. The man was clothed but very wet because he'd been in the tub. He'd been taking a bath after he broke into somebody's home. Now, this is behavior that normal individuals don't do. They just don't do this. People whacked out on drugs do, and that's what this is an example of. Almost guaranteed. Because even crazy people that aren't on drugs don't necessarily do this, but we are seeing more and more examples of this kind of activity happening. We saw down in Portland, we've got the lady that has mental issues, that her family struggled. She got into a 10-year-old's bed and took a nap. A quadriplegic, 10-year-old got into his bed, and the mom came in, and big debacle there. Had another guy in Portland who literally, family of 5, I think it was eating dinner, bashes the front window, trying to get inside and, get at this family. That was another young kid in his 20s. You got examples of people just doing drugs and doing crazy stuff. And this is one of them. A 27-year-old man was arrested for residential burglary and refused to explain his actions. I guess taking a bath, there's no charge there, is there? Hey, you used my towel? No, you didn't, because you already had your clothes on. So, and refused to explain his actions, including his choice of a bathing spot, police said. Yeah, this isn't how you do that. I mean, in a confused state, I can believe, no, this is wild beyond reasonable, isn't it? It is. And this isn't an area. This is in the Madrona area. So this is a little bit to the south and west of where my oldest son lives in Seattle. This is a good area. It's been one of those transitional areas for a long time, but it transitioned into, more of an upper end feel a long time ago. And it's not a bad area, but you've got people wandering around and people wander around everywhere. You know what I mean? And so it's kind of like in Seattle, nowhere is really exempt from this type of activity happening. And yet it's shocking enough that when it does happen, what'd the guy do when he got inside the home? He drew a bath. What? Why? Yeah, we don't know. He didn't give much explanation. Let's check out the police report. Let's see what the official Seattle Police Department blotter says. Police arrested a man Friday evening after he broke into a home, filled up the bathtub, and started bathing with his clothes on. Approximately 7:15, police responded to the 1700 block of 34th Avenue for reports of a burglary. A woman returned to her home to find one of her windows smashed and saw an unknown man inside. She stayed outside and called 911. Good call. Police arrived and announced their presence at the residence, instructing anyone inside to come out. After getting no response, officers began to search the home and soon found the suspect in the bathroom. Man was clothed but very wet, and the bathtub was full of water. I mean, you literally can't make this stuff up. I mean, if you did, people would say, that's not a story. That's just nonsense. It's nonsense that's happening on the regular in Seattle, on the regular in Portland, on the regular in LA. The suspect declined to provide any explanation for his actions, and officers booked the 27-year-old man into King County Jail for residential burglary. He's probably out by now. He's probably out, taking a shower somewhere else. Yeah. It's wild. It's wild that this is kind of where we sit. Here's a picture of the window. I mean, this guy went, he really broke out that window. I am surprised he didn't hurt himself getting in there. Because this is a window, not a door. Usually you bash out the door window and reach in and open the door up. But did he crawl through this window? It's unknown. We don't really know. There weren't any stories about him being injured. So we can't really say from that standpoint. But man, I mean, if this isn't an indication of how things are going sideways, not going on the right trajectory. If this isn't an indication, more and more of these stories are happening. More and more of these stories are happening. The velocity of these stories is increasing, and it's kind of becoming known. And so I think Seattle is going to overtake San Francisco for weird stories. I think Seattle is right there with Portland, because Portland, how many weird stories do I read out of Portland? That's because you've enabled the whole drug thing. You've got a bunch of whacked out people on drugs. And these drugs that we've got now, it used to be crack. It used to be heroin, right? It used to be meth. It used to be basic drugs. I mean, what happened to the good old days where you just had, solid selection of a handful of drugs that we kind of knew about? All right, don't do the heroin. You might overdose. But man, when you start talking about, well, at least they're just doing heroin now. When you start talking about that, because the synthetic opioids are so much stronger, it's wild. I just watched over the weekend this past weekend, I watched a new documentary on Philadelphia and kind of its evolution. I almost said elevation. It's not that high. The evolution of the issues with the textile and steel industry in Philadelphia. And then how, when it lost all of its jobs and we had, crack came in and heroin came in, and now we've got this xylazine in Philadelphia. And literally there was an area where all of a sudden it was like it was a railroad type area where it was a through area for a railroad track, and a whole bunch of hundreds of homeless people at one time were living in there. Well, they cleared all that out, and a lot of those folks went to Kensington Avenue. And then you've got this trank, what they're calling trank, which is the xylazine, and it is really impacting things there. It was a fascinating, I'll try and throw it up on the on the Discord channel, just so you can kind of get an idea of what that looks like. And I might even do kind of like a response video to that. It was really interesting. A couple of guys documented throughout the course of a year their experiences in the Kensington area of Philadelphia. And if you haven't checked that out, go on. You're probably watching this on YouTube. After you're done, of course, after consuming this podcast, go do a search for Kensington Avenue and you'll come up with all kinds of stuff. And you'll sit there and you'll go, what am I watching? What planet, what third world disgusting country is this? It's lawless. It's out of control. It's wild. You're just like, what? What is going on here? What am I watching? And the people that get me are the ones that are literally doubled over. Like you've got feet here at the bottom, go up to a waist, and then their head is down here by their feet. They're just doubled over from this drug. It's crazy. And they're just, women in the side of the street are just, you can imagine the vulnerability. You're just out there doing your drugs and just whacked out of your mind. How well does that go? Not well. And that's why you've got so much just craziness going on and criminal activity going on. It's nothing like taking a bath in somebody's home, but same type of deal. You got people that aren't in control of what's going on mentally or physically. Oftentimes people are just doing stuff. I'm breaking into somebody's home. How come? Not really sure. I'm not going to disclose that. I'm not going to share with you why I'm in this home taking a bath in my clothes. Right? I mean, if that doesn't tell you something right there, what are we working with? I don't really know.